integrity is a value that a lot of companies use.
Yes.
And in my experience, my integrity versus your integrity are two completely different things, but we both think we're right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where I believe you have to give a definition and explanation of what the value means to you. So for me, profit, without profit, there is no business. That is a tagline. Communication, we practice open, authentic, direct conversation. That's the tagline that goes with it. So yeah, I'm giving you this word, I'm giving you the value, but I'm also giving you my explanation of what it means to me. And since I'm the founder of the company, this is what I'm ruling. This is not a democracy.
Yeah.
You're either on board or you're not.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Kooler Radio, the broadcast that hosts conversations that can help you craft your life. Each week, we bring on guests who are influencers, coaches, mentors, leaders, and our conversations explore the art of intentional living and crafting life to your dreams. Drop in with us now and get ready to craft your life. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Kooler Radio. I'm your host, Matt Kuehlhorn. Today, I'm sitting down with an inspiring individual, Tomas Keenan. He's really best known for his humble beginnings, and I'm excited to dive into a little bit of this with you, Tomas. And then you also work with entrepreneurs who refuse to be average, which I absolutely love. The entrepreneurs who are crushing 7+ figures in business. Your success as an elite business coach led you to move into Dallas, which you're beaming in from, and focus full-time on your newest company, Step It Up Academy. You're a couple-time best-selling author, podcast host yourself, and I just really appreciate you being here, Tomas. I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah, me too, Matt. And thank you for having me. I'm grateful to be a guest on the show. You know, as a fellow podcaster, it's not often that I'm in the opposite seat. I do a lot more of interviews on my own show, and it's refreshing and good to come in here and see someone else who's got their stuff together and organized, and I just have a good feeling that this is going to be a really good episode that's going to be impactful and is going to help people, probably in ways that they're not realizing it's going to be helpful.
Yeah, I dig that. The way I open up these all the time, Tomas, is with the question, where did you grow up?
Franklin Square, Long Island, New York.
All right.
Yeah, we just chatted briefly about it, but I spent my first 40 years in Long Island. When I got married to my first wife, we moved out a little bit further on the island. But yeah, I spent a good chunk of my days growing up in Franklin Square, and got to go back there right around Mother's Day. Went to see my mom for Mother's Day and got to see the island a bit more and go and reconnect with some people who had influenced and inspired me as I was kind of coming up on this journey. And I think it's important that every so often you kind of reflect and say, all right, well, where did I start? Where did I come from? Who helped me along the way? My opinion is it's super easy to forget the people who have given you a helping hand over the course of a 20, 30-year career, right? And I don't know, Matt, how old you are, but I'm just about 45, so I've got a lot of people in my life that have influenced me positively. And this latest trip back to New York gave me a chance to go back there and look a few of them in the eye, because to be honest with you, some of them have passed, right?
Yeah.
But I was able to look a few of them in the eye, shake their hands, and say, thank you very much for giving me this piece of the puzzle that helped me. You didn't know this, but this helped me do this 5 years ago. This lesson you taught me over here helped me accomplish this, 10 years ago, whatever the case may be. And all those things together have now led to the human being in front of you, the man in front of you, the leader in front of you, the father, all those things that I have morphed or worked myself into becoming.
Yes. Bro, what I love about this, I mean, we have in society, and I think it can be promoted in social and just in culture in general, is like the lone wolf, right? Take it on the chest, do everything ourselves, but you're just hitting it on the head. It's not true. And taking those moments to reflect, I mean, that just gives an amount of grace and gratitude and these ripples, right? Even I would imagine in some of your experiences, like there might be a mentor or coach or just an interaction, and it might have been just a minute moment that really deeply impacted and created ripples within you and your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
It's amazing to recognize.
Yeah. Oftentimes it's not this, $30,000, $40,000 a year program that we join that's most life changing. right? Or the information we receive from the leader of the program or people who are part of the team. It's in the sidebar conversations that we have with someone over a meal who may have been in the same shoes that we're in, but they did it a year ago or 6 months ago. And they give us that little tidbit of insight that we need that propels us for the next 1, 2, 3 seasons in our own lives.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to decide where I want to go here. We had a pre-conversation before hitting record, and it was around, certainly talking about business. And the underlying to this, for anybody that's been in the game long enough, and I'm a 76er baby, so I've got you by a year or so. The real insight is that it's an internal game. It's an inside game. And the more we can go in and work on our stuff and our internal, I think what I'm recognizing in my life is the more external, quote unquote, success that comes. For you, where did it come along in your journey for that insight of like, oh, I'm actually crafting a version of Thomas or even the next version of Thomas? Was that a mentor? Was that a book? Where did that develop?
Lots of steps along the way. And some many years ago, some recently. And those steps, I almost call them life-altering events, kind of like moments where you go, aha, like something hit me. Something woke me up. There's been several. It started as me as a teenager in high school. I fell in love with car audio and got into the car audio business. But I had a shop teacher who helped me along the way. And if it wasn't for that guy kind of sticking his neck out for me, I probably wouldn't have gone down the career path that I did. And that career path launched me into what I'm doing now. Having children, getting married, buying the first home, right? Selling a business, all of these things, in my opinion, are life-altering events that ultimately can change the trajectory for you, but they're also those aha moments. There's been a lot of people who've had conversations with me over the years who have helped me, kind of like what we just alluded to. And the biggest one was probably close to 2 years ago. I was doing well. Here's the kicker, right? Because I've experienced this a couple of times. Society looks at you from the outside. You got the business, maybe you got the fleet of vehicles for the business, you got the employees, you've got a nice house, you got a couple nice cars, you've got some kids, you got a nice dog, the American dream. Everything looks perfect from the outside. Yeah. Right. And I've gone through this 2 different iterations at this point in my life. And the first time was me deciding to leave New York and move to Texas. And in doing so, I exited my business and sold my 50% to my partner. So I've got people who will look at me like, you're getting rid of a multi-million-dollar a year business that's, doing really well, and you built this thing, you spent 11 years building it, you're crazy for letting it go. Right? So people didn't understand why I was picking up the family and moving, right? And there was a lot of internal stuff that was not in alignment with me as a human being that I discovered over time. Okay. Fast forward a couple of years, right? And I've recently just finalized a divorce with my now ex-wife, right? I start realizing certain things that aren't in alignment anymore, and I've got a choice. I can either continue down this path and keep society and those around us happy, while the internal version of me just rips apart and becomes worse and worse every day, or I could have the really hard, difficult conversations that are not going to be fun, and everyone's going to kind of look at us like, hey, you guys are crazy. You got this perfect family unit over here again, and you're breaking it apart because of insert whatever their opinion is.
Yeah.
That's been challenging. And, when society backs you, it's easier to kind of go along, right? And I don't know what your experience has been, Matt, but most of my life, society has not backed me. I've always been the against the grain, the black sheep kind of guy. And the older I get, the more grateful I am that I've gone that way. It's definitely given me a different perspective of what's going on out there from, not just a business perspective, but also the personal side of the house too. How certain people operate, why people do certain things. And I'm super grateful that I've always had a couple screws loose. And I mean that in the best way possible.
Thomas, when you talk to business owners, when you're coaching, mentoring, or even interviewing, how often do you see it where those individuals are quote unquote stuck? Like they're maybe lacking a little bit of courage, or they just need the oomph off the cliff to make that next jump, because those, I think, are where the level ups can happen, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how often are people stuck, and what keeps them stuck?
What keeps them stuck is a lot of things. Most of it's themselves, honestly. They don't have enough confidence in themselves to take certain actions, or, hey, I don't know enough about that. I can't afford to hire the right person yet, therefore I'm not going to touch it. Or we find the opposite. I can't find the right person for that. And even though I know nothing about this, I'm going to spend all of my time figuring this out while the rest of my business burns to the ground. Couple different scenarios, but yeah, we see it a lot, especially, in the coaching consulting space. Here's the deal. All right. You get this. What I help people with and what I teach people and how I organize things for people is not revolutionary. Okay. Can that person get there without my guidance help? Absolutely they can. There's this thing called YouTube. How about it? But how much time are you going to spend going down that rabbit hole? Or are you going to come to someone like me, have a conversation or two, and compress time and get a faster way to get the end result with avoiding some of the headaches and pitfalls that I've endured over my career?
Yeah. One of your books, Unfuck Your Business, is around core values.
Yep.
As you've making these shifts and big transitions, have you maintained, have your core values been static?
No.
Or have those iterated over time?
No, I'm a firm believer that core values will evolve over time as you do. And I think it's important that you go back in every so often and review them. On the business side of the house, the core values for me right now haven't changed much since my last iteration of them, which is about 2 years ago. The personal values have definitely shifted and changed, right? So I go through this situation, recently divorced. I've got 50-50 custody of my kids. I've got 3 amazing kids that are my own. My woman has 4, so combined we have a total of 7, which is complete pandemonium. We love it. But knowing that, okay, and this was the unwritten, verbalized conversation with my ex is like, hey, you handle the kids in the house, I'll handle making the money in the business. And I think it's a very common agreement between couples. Okay, cool. That allowed me to detach and not be I was not as present of a father as I am now. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? The kids, cool. You got the kids to handle. No one's bleeding. They're fed. Awesome. I'll hang out. I'll throw the ball with my son. We'll take the kids on vacations and whatnot. But when it came time to the day-to-day activities, I wasn't nearly as present as I should have been.
Yeah.
And now, going back to, I think it's roughly October, November of 2023 is when, our splits somewhat finalized. And now I've got 50-50 custody of my own kids. Well, that means when the kids are with me, no one's cooking for them, doing laundry, all that kind of stuff. Okay, well, this forces me. Now I've got to step up and be more present. And what I found was oh, shit, my oldest is 10 years old. So for 10 years, I haven't been doing this. And I actually find joy in helping the kids. Okay, didn't expect that. I'm avoiding this like the plague because I think it's going to be difficult.
Yeah,
I'm not going to like it. And meanwhile, it's one of those things that fulfills me as a parent, is to help them. Right. And also, looking back at it, because everything's 2020 going through the rearview mirror. When I was not showing up there consistently for the kids like I should have been, what was I teaching them? What was I subconsciously teaching them was okay? And are they going to carry that mentality into their relationships with their children? So yes, we may be 10 years deep with my oldest and 8 years with my twins, but let me try to course correct as best as possible, because I'm here to be the mentor to my kids. Right? That's a duty, responsibility, obligation for business owners, leaders, parents, spouses. You have got to be the mentor for those people around you.
Yeah. I think a real important part to extract for listeners in that is, whether it's with our kids, with our businesses, there's always time to course correct. And it's an awareness game, right? Knowing that you're a process guy, SOP guy, integrator guy, Do you have any sort of rhythm or process for evaluating and tweaking core values?
Yeah, I do. I've got it. It's funny, my first book, Unfuck Your Business, there's some exercises in there for deciphering core values. And like anything else, the more you do something, the better you get at it. So I write the book. It launches in June of 2019. It's now 2024. We're recording this. And about, I guess, 2.5 years ago, I was talking to someone else who was big into core values and understood them well. And they gave me a worksheet of what they were using to get them done quickly. And I'm like, how do you decipher core values quickly? And it's counterintuitive. So I kind of took this, and I'm big with, I call it the MMA method, right? The mixed martial arts method. We'll call it the Frankenstein method. Take a little bit from that one, a little bit from me, a little bit for that one over there. And then we put them all together and massage it until it becomes something that fits you and works for you. Cool. So now I've got this new worksheet. We call it the Streamlined Core Values Worksheet, and it's something that we run all of our clients through. And if a client comes to us and they're like, yeah, I got core values in place already. Cool. You still got to do the work, right? And this is something that happened to me. I'll give you the backstory here. I write the book on core values, right? I still have my service-based business at the time. My ex-partner and myself, from New York, we fly down here to DFW, and we attend a 2-day seminar held by a guy who's running a really big organization. He's doing over $100 million a year in gross revenue. Okay, and he's in the finance industry. Super smart guy, knew what he was talking about, and we had this core value exercise in this 2-day seminar that we paid a boatload of money to attend. And I looked at the guy and I'm like, hey man, we're good there. I got core values in place. He goes, all right, awesome. He goes, well, what are they? So I pulled all my stuff out and showed him. And he's like, you got too many. I want you to do this. So in this exercise that we're doing now at this event, my partner and myself, we're getting feedback from some of the top leaders of his team. We wound up taking 7 core values and trimming them down to 4. It's like, oh, okay. So we've evolved since we made these, which was 2 or 3 years prior. And now this is the new version. And it really tremendously helped us. I don't know what your experience has been, but one of my beliefs is, if we're coming into an organization, the employees, the team members, they have to understand what the values are. They have to know what they are. And with 7 values, it was really hard to get new guys to learn and understand and memorize what those values were versus, 2, 3, or 4 values. I'm a firm believer if I can simplify it as much as possible. If I can get it down to 1 value, awesome. That's difficult. Typically we're usually around 4 or 5.
Yeah. Is there a time where values should not change?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of them that just shouldn't change, right? I'll give you 2 of mine that have carried over from multiple companies. Yeah. And they are what they are. And one of them was a value that we had come up with at this 2-day event that I was at. That's profit. Right. Without profit, there's no business. And I can't tell you how many years that I did business before that where profit wasn't looked out for. It was like, no, just take care of the customer, take care of the customer. Yeah, I get it. Yes, the customer has to get taken care of, but we cannot survive as an organization if we're not profitable. Right. So that one is one that has come over and is stuck and has been there since. The other one's communication, right? We have to proactively communicate with everyone, internal and external, right? So externally, you're talking from marketing, right? You're talking sales calls, you're talking follow-up. We're talking anything in the lead generation area, right? You have to communicate effectively internally with your team as well, and also external. When your client becomes a client, make sure you're communicating with them and giving them a world-class experience as best as possible with your company, right? Yeah. You and I both know that there's no such thing as a perfect company. Every single one of them has their warts and their bumps. It just is what it is. Yeah. But if we're not working and trying to get better each and every day, like what's the point?
1,000%, man. Okay. A real kind of practical question, and then I want to shift a little bit of focus into some steps that we can take, especially for listeners that are that technician and want to kind of scale out of it. Mm-hmm. But this applies a bit. And I'm just curious, with values, you just shared your two. They were each one word. I imagine like the corporate one word values that don't really mean a whole lot on the wall. So how do we craft a value? Like I have one that is personal and in our team. It's we do what we say we're going to do. And that's just extreme ownership. That's the whole piece of really understanding your word and the value of that.
Yep.
And that is more than one word, right? So I've always looked at mine because there's going to be a word like communication, but then you have a definition behind it.
Yeah.
So how do you share that and kind of push it across a membership of a team, multiple people?
In the onboarding process, well, I mean, core values are in the beginning of everything, right? So yeah, it's very important to roll them out to your team and continue to do so even when they become team members, right? That has to be talked about incessantly, in my opinion. But kind of like what you said, it's the value itself, which is the word, with a tagline that explains what the value means to you. Because like one of the things I see often is for some reason, and I say for some reason, I kind of get it. Integrity is a value that a lot of companies use.
Yes.
And in my experience, my integrity versus your integrity are two completely different things, but we both think we're right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where I believe you have to give a definition and explanation of what the value means to you. So for me, profit, without profit, there is no business. That is a tagline. Communication, we practice open, authentic, direct conversation. That's the tagline that goes with it. So yeah, I'm giving you this word, I'm giving you the value, but I'm also giving you my explanation of what it means to me. And since I'm the founder of the company, this is what I'm ruling. This is not a democracy.
Yeah.
You're either on board or you're not.
Yeah, I love that. And the difficult piece in that, I mean, one level is to reiterate and repeat it so that people know it and can verbally repeat it back to you. The really difficult piece is to live it and allow people, or not allow, but hold accountability so that people on your team embody it. And I love the definition of culture, the worst behavior I tolerate. And these core values are it. That's been in my journey, like the most important and yet most difficult thing. Like, again, it's easy to get it into the mind so that they can repeat it, but into their body so they can live it.
Yeah. I agree.
Next level.
I find that if you're a business owner, you've done the work for core values, you implement them, you roll them out, you hammer them into your team. This to me is a really good sign if and when it happens. And usually it does if you guys are doing the right thing. If you are at your facility, you're at a job site, whatever the case may be, and you round a corner and you hear two of your team members kind of in a little bit of a argument, going at it a little bit. And if you hear one of the other ones call the other one out based upon the company's core values, you know you're doing it right.
Winning.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. As I alluded to, and we'll start putting boat tails on this conversation, even though I feel like we could just hang out for hours. For somebody that's listening who is owner-operator in the field, in the tech role, in the tools and hands kind of deal, to assist in their journey in getting out and scaling up. One, we've already talked about a bit of core values, and that just helps hold culture together so that you bring the right people on and have some adhesion in how your brand delivers. I know you're big on SOPs and really locking in procedures and steps. I think I'm more curious and interested for perspective of that individual internally. Like, what are some of the beliefs or shifts we have to make in that journey?
There's a lot there.
Yeah.
Reading is a really big part of it. Without reading, I wouldn't be where I am today. And my excuse was, I'll give you the backstory here. Hired a coach, right? And the first meeting with this guy, go into his office, I sit down, and he drops a book on the counter or the table in front of me and says, "That's your homework." I pick up this book, and I looked at this guy with a straight face, and I was like, "Richard, I don't have a moment in my day to read a single page on this book. There's no way in hell I'm going to read it." Not that I don't want to. Like, I don't have the time. And he's like, you drive to your customers' locations a lot, don't you? It's like, yeah, man, I'm behind the wheel 3 to 5 hours a day. He goes, cool. Download the audiobook and get it done. Oh, okay. Why did I think of that? That's a pretty simple answer right there. So that right there kicked off this process to where I was like, oh my God, I'm consuming these audiobooks at such a rapid pace that all of this new information is flooding into me. And there seems to be an open window where we can learn and evolve as a young, or I should say middle-aged adult. I think the cutoff's around 34 or 35 years old. And then after that, our mind kind of closes off a little bit. And I know I'm not speaking in details here, but I've seen some research done on this and heard others speak about it. So it's pretty real. I was very fortunate to get in right before my window closed up. And I took it and ran with it. So it was like, cool. I spent these years studying the art of car audio installation as a technician because that's where my passion was, right? And that's where I needed to skill up in order to become the best technician I could. Yeah. Now, fast forward a bunch of years, I'm a business owner who still also happens to be a tech in the company he owns. But now my priorities have shifted and are different. I see the bigger picture. And I also see and understand if I continue staying on my tools here, turning wrenches and twisting wires, like I'm never going to be able to run and operate the company to hit these goals that we've set. And I could see the bigger picture. I could see the opportunities, the possibilities, but it was imperative that I paused and took a step or two back and looked at everything from like a 30,000 foot view in order for me to see the true picture. And once I did that with the help of a lot of the books I was reading at the time, it was like, oh, it's one of those things where clarity breeds decision or choices, right? Once we have the clarity, we can see, okay, this is now the choice we have to make or not make. And you've got to do the work in order to see the clarity, right? So the books, in my opinion, were the tools. The coaches were the tools that helped bring me down a path. When I discovered it myself, which I think is the most important part, because when you discover it yourself, you think it's your idea. It's the best thing since sliced bread. You're bought in. Now you're going to go ahead and take some action. But that was some of the earlier steps that I needed to take that put me down this path. I was also really fortunate. I had a client who was uber wealthy, and started doing some work for him. And he used to have me come out to his house and work on some of his vehicles. And every time I went there, he'd come outside and hang out with me. And it was like a mentorship session with this dude. Yeah. Here's a guy who's bought and sold more businesses than he knows what to do with. He doesn't even know how many LLCs he has at this point in time. He's got rental properties all over the East Coast. And he still turns wrenches for a living. Like, it just blew my mind, like, what's going on here? But me sitting down having conversations with somebody else who was where I wanted to be was very inspirational and helped me understand, okay, cool, that's another human being. He's got 2 legs, puts his pants on the same way as I do every morning. He was able to accomplish that. No, by the way, he's only 2 years older than me. Why can't I? Yeah. Right. So when you intentionally start surrounding yourself with a different level of person, someone who has accomplished things through hard work, through great determination, it definitely, in the best way possible, rubs off and inspires you to go do things. It's like, all right, cool. Well, if that person can do it, why can't I? Yes.
So study specific knowledge and get around inspiring people.
Yeah. And I'll tell people this too. If the internet tells you to go read this book and you pick up the book, whether it's an actual book or an audio book, and you're not in alignment with it, stop reading the fucking book. Like, there's so many other choices out there. Yeah. Right. So don't waste your precious time on something that is not a good fit for you just because the other gurus on the internet tell you this is the one to go read.
What was that first book your coach had you read? Do you remember?
Built to Sell by John Warlow.
Right on.
Yep.
Good one. What are top 1 or 2 recommendations that you have top of mind?
Books
that you would push out? Yeah.
Oh yeah. One of the game changers for me was Essentialism by Greg McKeown.
Oof.
Yeah. Awesome book. basically we're doing too much and we need to simplify things, right? So get rid of the trivial many and focus on the essential few. That's the overall theme of the book, but he goes into deep detail on what that actually means. Gives some real world examples that he's had to utilize in his own life too, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's power. Yeah, I fight for simplicity all the time. Took me a minute to recognize that.
Oh yeah.
Thomas, this is awesome. For folks that are interested in following you and even learning more about your Step Up Academy, where do we go?
ConnectWithThomas.com. Super simple. All my links are there. My websites, anything on social media. You guys want to contact me, my contact information is on that page too. Always looking to do interviews, podcast, stuff like this. I'm always looking for guests as well. So I want to reciprocate and get you on my show. I think that'll be a really good time for both of us. But yeah, that's the place, connectwiththomas.com. And you can find links, like I said, to everything, to the podcast, to the websites, to any of the stuff we got.
Awesome. You're definitely worth following. And just a shout out there, I invite people on this show that inspire me and catch my attention. And so for transparency, you and I haven't worked together to date. We've interacted a little bit, and, I've definitely read the one book that you have out there, Unfuck Your Business, and I just love the value that you put out there in social. So
thank you.
Go follow this guy. Thomas, I think I might start something anew today, but I'm curious as a closing question. Looking down the road, so you said you're 45. What version are you building towards? Who are you crafting? 10, 20, 30 years from now.
That's a tough question. I mean, I'm an integrator, right? It's just the way my brain operates, but I do have a decent amount of visionary in me. However, I don't have enough visionary in me to see 20 years down the pipeline. I'll tell you more current to this time that I can visualize. Right? To me, I've had the teams of employees and the responsibility of massive payroll and all that. Right? I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to build an organization that was able to do that. I've also run some other organizations that have been large as well. And here I am in a season of my life where I know for a fact I no longer want that. Now, that is a bad thing. Like, I've put my time in over there. I understand what's required to operate companies at a very high level. I don't want that lifestyle from me anymore, especially what I've discovered with my family and my kids of showing up for them. So for me, it's like, hey, how do I build a lifestyle business where I've got good money coming in every month, but I'm not stuck behind the computer 8 hours a day, nor am I stuck in traffic driving to and from a location to operate this 9 to 5, which you and I both know turns into a 20-hour day. And then all of a sudden, what are we doing this for?
Yeah.
Right. So I'm doing it now, right? I'm living it right now, but it isn't operating as efficiently as I want it to. All the dots and pieces haven't connected yet, but each day that passes, we're getting a bit closer. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And overall, man, I'm here. I'm a present dad. I'm able to show up for the kids, show up for the family, right? Be the supportive spouse, be the supportive dad, the whole 9 yards. And overall, I've discovered is that is much more fulfilling for me. And I feel better inside as a human being than I ever did when I had all of the things that society said you were supposed to have.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful, man. Well, Thomas, I really appreciate our conversation today. I appreciate the value that you put into the world, how you show up, and I just thank you for your time.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you so much for the invite and the time here.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to the Kooler Lifestyle Podcast. We count on your subscriptions, your likes, your shares, and I encourage you to do that now. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe, lower right-hand button. If you're on audio, download this, share it, and we look forward to having you on the next one.